Immigration to China is very different from the typical immigration we know, completely different. For decades, the United States was the only country that came to mind when we thought about looking for better opportunities. For many, the idea was to get in without documents, use a coyote, and look for any kind of job. Once you get there, China has a completely different concept. Here, there is no coyote. Here, you don't come to do the work that the Chinese don't want to do. You come to join a team of Chinese people who are doing what they do best. Here, immigrants aren't servants. China doesn't have a shortage of workers for low-skilled jobs. You don't come here to harvest, to clean bathrooms, to cook at night. All of that is done by the Chinese. They don't have the mentality of Americans like, oh, I won't do that job. No, here you come to complement the strength they already have, to offer them your creativity and ingenuity from another perspective. You don't come to China to be a laborer, you come to develop your full potential and offer it to them. And they're really taking advantage of it. See, very different from the Americans. Roughly, how long was it from applying to landing in China?
Oh, it must have been a little over 5 months, to be honest.
This video tries to expand the options for those looking for opportunities abroad. I'm not encouraging immigration or telling you to leave your country. I admire and applaud those who stay to work in their country, our beloved Latin America. But if you've already decided to leave, if you've already made that sad and difficult decision, like I did in my time, I offer you information about all the countries so you can see for yourself. In the coming months and years, I will be visiting all the countries in the world that could be an option for us Spanish speakers to emigrate to. And I will try to summarize the programs and requirements as objectively and clearly as possible. When I chose to emigrate, there was only the United States, just that. Looking for more options, I found only Canada, so I stayed there. I ended up with my second choice. The purpose of this series, which starts with China, is to expand the immigrant's vision beyond the American dream. The world is much more than the United States and Canada. I just want to give you options, compare, inform you with honesty about the good and the bad, the advantages and disadvantages. And then you decide, do you generally recommend visiting China?
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend it. Really, really. Because it's a place that, yes, it's true, is very different in terms of the language, of the things here, of the people. But really, at the end of the day, you realize that it's very similar in many ways and you adapt easily. People are very friendly. They're very sociable. Honestly, I love China. And yes, I really do. Honestly, I really recommend that people move here.
There are three main ways to come to China. Number one, with their new K visa program, which was implemented on October 1st, 2025. This is a new program, the Chinese version of the United States HB1 visa. Second, with a Chinese government scholarship. Yes, they pay you to come and study if you qualify. And number three, a job offer. All these three options are different and have different requirements, but they all have one requirement in common: English. Since very few people in Latin America speak Chinese, to be able to apply for these scholarships, you need to speak English. I told you guys, since I'm with the Canada thing where English is required as it's an English-speaking country, so what did you do? You got offended. Oh, nopal face, what do you mean they require English? It's because you think you're American now, because you hate Spanish, because you're ashamed of your roots, blah, blah, blah. Well, even to come to China, you need basic English. You'll learn Chinese once you're here, yes, but to be able to get in, English is essential. And not just to this country, to any country you want. So, do you want to immigrate? Do you want to look for a better life outside of Latin America? Your first step, sorry to say it, is English. To whatever country, it doesn't matter which one, it doesn't matter what you want to do there. Whether you're going to be a farmer or a manager, it doesn't matter, your first step is English. And yes, the same as always, unfairly. This gives an advantage to people from rich or English-speaking countries because they already have English. It gives an advantage to the Americans. Look at all these hundreds of Americans who moved to China who have shared their experiences in YouTube videos. And you can see how they themselves tell that they were poor in the United States from horrible neighborhoods infested with crime. And here in China, they are members of the upper middle class. An economic status they would have never achieved in the United States. Especially because many of them are African American. There are girls who say, because I'm black, I would have been poor my whole life in the United States. Here, I'm part of the upper class. Yes, because they already speak English, and I tell them, you're not here to be a servant, but to join a well-established class. And if the gringo can do it, we can do it too. In the future, when China has been the first world power for decades, maybe the universal language will be Chinese, the base language to go anywhere, the one people from other countries use to communicate with each other. Maybe the language will be Chinese. But for now, with the situation and circumstances as they are, even to come to China, your base is going to be English. Let's start with the K visa. K visa in English, and this is more than just a visa, it's a strategy. Right when the United States announced that they're going to eliminate the H-1B visa, which is for this type of professionals, raising the price to $100,000, as Donald Trump said, China replied, "You don't want them? I do." It's practically a copy of this visa, the same concept, the same applicant, the same purpose. But now, instead of creating the best professionals for the United States, supporting the best companies in the United States, now it's going to be for China. More than a visa, it's a strategy. This is a message that China is sending to the world, basically saying, if gringos racist, China not racist. Just like that, pretty much. It's a new category of ordinary visa that China is adding to make it easier for young foreign professionals in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to enter, stay, and participate. Do you remember that Mexico always wins first place in math and robotics? Well, China noticed that. They're watching us, they're observing us, and they decided to take advantage of that talent. China is already a leader in these industries, and they know that the country leading in these industries will be the first world power. That's why they're saying, come over. It came into effect on October 1st, 2025. It's practically an international exchange and cooperation in key innovation fields for the Chinese economy: education, culture, research, and entrepreneurship. Who can apply for it? Look, it's aimed at young foreign talents. And these are the requirements we know so far: having at least a bachelor's degree or being involved in research or educational projects in these fields. The visa, which promises several benefits compared to other types of visas I've seen: more flexibility. You don't need to have a Chinese company as a sponsor, nor a letter of invitation from a local entity. Easier stays. It's said that multiple entries will be allowed, longer validity periods, and longer stays. Now, something not clear yet. I read the requirements, and there are some things they don't specify. The exact age. It doesn't define who is considered young. For visa purposes, young means different things in each country, even though they're seeking young foreigners. Here, unlike in Chiapas, Mexico, where you're seen as old after 30, in Canada, even at 45, you're still considered young. Who counts as young? The clearest way I can summarize this visa, the K visa, is that you're going to bring the talent that the United States is wasting, but it has to be real talent. Let's continue with the scholarships. Here are the main types of scholarships in China. Number 1, the most generous, the most well-known, and the most comprehensive. The Chinese Government Scholarship, CSC, which stands for China Scholarship Council, under the Ministry of Education. Who can apply? Anyone who isn't Chinese and wants to pursue a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate in China. They cover full tuition, dormitory housing, and a monthly allowance of 2,500, 3,500 yen based on your study level. Comprehensive medical insurance during the program duration, plus an extra year of Chinese if needed. You will apply through the Chinese embassy or consulate in your country. This is a bilateral program through Chinese universities that accept CSC scholars and through special programs such as the Belt and Road Initiative UE Window AUN program. That's the English name. The usual deadline is December to April to start classes in September. Pay close attention. Number 2, provincial or municipal scholarships. Each province or city can offer its own scholarships, usually less competitive than those from the China Scholarship Council, but they're still good. It generally covers tuition plus accommodation, or sometimes just the tuition. Here, you will apply directly to the university within that province. Now, university scholarships. Almost all major universities have their own scholarship programs. Here, some include living expenses and some only cover tuition. We also have Confucius Institute scholarships. These are for language and culture. These are for those who want to learn the language and culture of China, and they are granted by the China Education International Foundation. This includes your tuition, housing, and monthly costs. Also, some Chinese companies, for example Huawei or Alibaba, offer scholarships to foreign students in specific fields such as engineering, technology, and business. They are focused on technical innovation careers or linked to international projects. Now, the general requirements: being a foreign citizen, simply not being Chinese, being in good health, and having a good academic record. So someone like me who barely passed, well, won't qualify anymore. Now, the approximate age limits approximately PhD under 40 years old, masters under 35 years old, and bachelors under 25 years old. This is generally speaking. Well, let's listen to a Spanish-speaking brother who came here to China as a scholarship student from Bolivia.
The migration process is not that difficult if you have help from the embassy. It was thanks to a scholarship offered by the Chinese embassy in Bolivia. And that made it much easier to get all the documents and the visa. A month before I bought the ticket to China, I received the acceptance letter from my university. I felt tense and uncertain because I wasn't sure I'd be accepted. I had an offer from another university in Spain, but I decided to wait for China because that's where I was aiming for in the first place.
Has your quality of life improved, declined, or stayed the same?
It has improved because since the day I arrived here in China, I stopped receiving a single cent from my parents. At 18 years old, I was already receiving a scholarship from the Chinese government, which was enough for me to live for a month and for the following months as well. So since that age, I have been a person responsible for my finances, responsible for my living expenses. So yes, I already feel like a free person in that regard. I leave at 7:30 on the company bus to arrive at around 8 in the morning. I have breakfast and then I start my work, which is mechanical design. I open the computer and start using CATIA and all that until 5:30.
What is a typical breakfast?
The typical breakfast here is, well, it's some noodles, boiled egg. That's very typical. Boiled eggs are still common here in China because in the hardest times, it was the gift you got on your birthday, a boiled egg. Literally. That's much appreciated.
And now some tips to increase your chances. Apply early. CSC scholarships are very competitive. Choose less well-known universities to have more options. Get an acceptance letter from a Chinese professor. Just like Goku and Krillin did with Master Roshi, you'll do it the same way. Apply for multiple scholarships, national, provincial, and university at once. There's no limit. And let's move on to the next option, which is being a teacher. Working in education, teaching children, preschoolers, adults. The most common is being a language teacher, but it's not limited to that. Teaching is in high demand here in China for foreigners. Remember, here in China, foreigners are not allowed to do jobs that Chinese people can do. You can't come as a taxi driver or food delivery person. Those jobs are for Chinese people. The Chinese government is not trying to replace Chinese people, it's complementing them. To be able to work as a language teacher in China, you need a job offer from a Chinese school, language school, university, or international school. There are fairs all over Latin America where schools hire teachers. Or you can send your resume directly to the school. Let's listen to the testimony of a Spanish-speaking brother who came to China exactly like this to become a language teacher.
I think it's something like global exchange, and I applied for teaching jobs in China. So the process was actually very easy. I had to upload copies of my documents, my passport, and my university degree. At that time, the immigration system at the Embassy of Mexico, yes, the process was quite, let's say, tedious. Let's say to a certain extent new. As time went by, it became a little easier, more accessible. I think there are lots of possibilities, a lot of them. However, they do seem a bit too limited depending on each person's perspective. With that background of the Chinese visa, we can also access other types of visas in other countries. It's the same with the import process or the import-export business. Markets also open up in different countries, but these are really complicated, really tedious processes that require a lot of dedication.
And that's all for today. Tell me which country you would like to explore as immigrants in order to interview those who immigrated to that country to see if it's good or not. Every country has pros and cons. Let's explore them. Which country interests you? May courage be with you. That's all for today, and see you next time.